The Durham police and the Durham prosecutors have mocked Reginald Daye's family by convincing them to play the role of aggrieved family members spewing hatred towards Crystal Mangum. These family members, like most uninformed and unenlightened people, hold Crystal Mangum, the Duke Lacrosse victim accuser, responsible for the April 2011 death of Reginald Daye, her boyfriend at the time. Recently, when Mangum has appeared in court for a hearing, Daye's family would show up in the courtroom pews and with their glares shoot daggers at this young woman who has been charged with first-degree murder in his death. According to news sources, prosecutor Coggins-Franks has even made a point of publicly pointing out their presence to the court, taking the extra step of suggesting that some were still so distraught as to be weeping during the hearing. Whether or not these courtroom theatrics were orchestrated by the prosecution, which is most likely the case, or the misguided creation of the Daye family itself, is unknown. But its intent is the same, the goal being to garner animosity against Mangum. Prosecutors in this case need every possible advantage, as their case is non-existent. Evidence has readily established that Miss Mangum was the victim of domestic violence, assault on a female, and false imprisonment by an alcohol-intoxicated Daye. According to accounts by Crystal Mangum, Daye repeatedly punched her in the face and head, leaving the left side of her face swollen. Mangum said he also spit on her. Crystal Mangum sought refuge from Daye by locking herself inside the bathroom, whereupon Daye proceeded to knock the door off of its frame. In police reports, Daye admitted to dragging Crystal Mangum around the apartment by her hair. 2 clumps of her hair were found at 2 different sites at the scene. Crystal Mangum claims that Daye brought from the kitchen several steak knives and began to throw them at her. She states that Daye was choking her when she desperately grabbed the knife that was lying in reach and stabbed him once in the left side. Police also found in Daye's apartment a set of brass knuckles. Evidence furthermore supports that she stabbed him in self-defense and that the wound she inflicted was non-life-threatening. Intubation of the esophagus instead of the trachea by medical staff at Duke University Hospital as a complication of delirium tremens was responsible for Daye's brain death and cardiac arrest. His subsequent elective removal from life support by Duke Hospital staff resulted in his death, a death in which Mangum played no role. A fraudulent autopsy report by North Carolina Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Clay Nichols served as the underpinnings for the bogus murder charge against Mangum, and with the cooperation of the mainstream media, it has served to mislead the masses into believing Mangum was directly and solely responsible for his death. The Daye family has bought into this fantasy and has been injecting their venom at an innocent person, Miss Mangum, who is also a victim of their kin, Reginald Daye. Surely the prosecutors have represented themselves to the Daye family as sympathetic and empathetic fellow mourners out to get justice for Reginald, a valued member of society. But this is where the foolery begins. It is unreasonable for the Daye family to think that the Durham police and or its prosecutors give a whit about Reginald, an African-American man with a criminal record. The contempt the police and prosecutors had for Mr. Daye is evidenced in their choice of an alias for him. Using the initials of his first and last name, they came up with the moniker Richard Dong. Dong is a vulgar slang word that refers to male genitalia, and its use for the so-called alleged victim who they cared so much about was inappropriate, offensive, and racist. Totally uncalled for. Duke University Hospital had the decency, after Reginald Daye was admitted, to change his alias from Richard Dong to Richard Douglas. The Daye family needs to stop being a prosecution puppet in a vendetta prosecution of Mangum and come to grips with the reality that they are being used by the prosecution in carrying out an injustice against an innocent person, Mangum. If the Daye family wants to vent its hostility about Reginald Daye's death, they need to direct it where it belongs, at Reginald Daye himself and the Duke University Hospital.